Hi, this is Ned Siegfried from Siegfried and Jensen. As proud sponsors of BeliefCast, we hope you are inspired by Todd's weekly podcasts, which contain so many courageous stories of recovery and personal growth. Remember, it's not what happened in the past that matters, it's what happens in the future. We invite you all to work hard and be optimistic about your future. Enjoy today's podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Todd with the Todd Inspires BeliefCast. Thank you for tuning in once again. I can't thank you guys enough for supporting me and supporting this great cause. We are now ranked in the top 100 in the mental health category, which just is, one of my goals is to be, relevant in that space. And it's not because of me, it's because of the amazing guests I have come on. And so thank all of you for supporting this and believing in me on this. Today we are joined with Melissa Price. Melissa, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh man, it's a pleasure. We have a mutual friend, Amy, who we both love.
Yes.
And she's amazing, and we're just trying to hold on to her coattails, right?
Yes, exactly.
Well, and she's said nothing but great things about you, and it's like, you've got to get her on, and she's doing great things and it's got a great story. So thank you for being willing to come here and share your story with us today.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah. So a little background on Melissa. She's the owner of Creative Family Connection and the creator of the card game Emotion Commotion, which we'll talk more about. And you say it's a dream come true to play with families and laugh until you cry and teach adults and children alike about emotions. And so I think one of the things you are very passionate about is empowering people and teaching them emotional intelligence, which I want to spend a good chunk of time on that. You love connecting parents to their children through play. And, that's big in my world is connection. We always say this, connection's the opposite of addiction.
Yes.
Right? And you've probably heard that before. And Melissa has 20 plus years experience teaching youth, creative problem solving, acting, art, goal setting, and more. She's certified as a Safe Harbors guide, a LifeStory and LifeStudio coach, amongst many other methods of transformation. She loves to learn and teach. Her greatest joys are her amazing son and amazing daughter, and you've got 2 grandkids that are just the greatest thing in the world, right?
They are.
We were just talking about that.
Yes.
Yeah. So Melissa, thank you. And why don't we start with, tell us where you grew up and a little bit about your childhood.
All right. I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, and I grew up in a family that was abusive. One of my parents was abusive, and he was abusive physically, sexually, emotionally.
Oh, wow.
It's kind of what I grew up in.
Do you have siblings?
I do have one. Mm-hmm.
One sibling. Were you the oldest?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So how far back do you remember it being abusive? Like as young as you can remember?
Yes.
Wow.
Some of the abuse came later, but yeah.
Wow. So I know this is a big question, but for our listeners, like how did you manage through that, and how did you, navigate that? Because as a child, you're stuck. You don't know what to do, right?
Right.
So tell us a little bit about how you went through that and made it through there.
Well, I remember loving going to school because I was away from the abuse and the fear. And so when I was in first grade, we were asked what we wanted to be when we grew up. And I wrote teacher because I thought they are the end all be all. They're an adult that I can trust. And
yeah, you felt safe probably with your teacher.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So I navigated it the best I knew how. I was quiet and obedient and learned to be very connected to other people's emotions so that I could keep myself safe.
Right.
And then when I was around 9, I started going to different churches with friends, and I received a Bible, and I read that thing cover to cover twice when I was 9.
When you were 9?
Yeah. On my own.
Wow. That's not an easy read, right?
Right. I'm not sure how much I got from it, but it gave me some strength. And
right.
I was really fortunate in that I didn't believe that the abuse was my fault. So I didn't have that against me.
And that's pretty rare for our listeners.
Yes.
You know, usually a young child going through that, on some level, they think it's their fault, right?
Right.
Wow. So that was a gift.
It was.
So when you were reading this Bible, did it just you said it was so good for you? Was it like a peaceful feeling? What was causing you to really gravitate towards that?
I think just knowing that there was purpose.
Mm.
Somehow I gathered that there was purpose for the pain that I was going through. And I just always knew from early on that it was going to turn to good at some point.
Right. So how, your younger sibling, is it a brother or sister?
Sister.
How much younger was she than you?
3 years.
3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And did she go through some of the same abuse as well?
Yeah.
So how long did this last in your childhood?
Well, my parents divorced when I was 12.
Okay.
And then soon after, I realized that the abuse wasn't going to stop, even though my father was out of the house.
Were you splitting time, like having to stay at his place, or?
No.
Oh, okay.
But just in visiting, he made it clear that it wasn't going to stop. And so I went home and told my mom everything.
At 12?
Yes.
Wow.
And
again, pretty rare.
She took some action and he went to jail as a result.
Okay. Did that feel like a sense of safety once you knew that? Did it feel like?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I felt some freedom when he had moved away from the house, and when he was in prison, I just didn't think about him anymore.
Yeah. And was it safe from that point forward?
Yes.
In your rest of your childhood and being with your mom and your younger sister?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So how did that affect the way you kind of carried yourself? Were you a shy person? Did you like kind of close off, or were you outgoing? What was it like when you were like in junior high and high school?
In junior high and high school, I was probably just your average kid. Like, I tried out and made it for some sports, but I wasn't fantastic. I loved drama. I had a good set of friends from my church community, and I just was having fun. It was like I was having my childhood for the first time. I think of it, especially as a young adult, when I was out and about and doing things on my own. I just had a lot of fun. And I do think that it affected me, but I didn't realize how much it affected me till later as I started to learn. But in one particular aspect, I had an anger issue. Mm-hmm. And I realized that as soon as my father moved out, that now that I was free to feel feelings, the anger started coming out. And I thought, oh, I just have, these anger problems, and they're bad because that's not good.
Right. Yeah.
And so I judged myself harshly for it and was really frustrated. It wasn't terrible. Most of the time I took it out on myself. And I just didn't like it. I didn't like that all of a sudden I would just snap and be angry.
Yeah. Again, very common for someone going through what you went through. And really what's going on, and you know this, that anger is a defense mechanism to kind of keep you from that hurt and pain and fear that you had to deal with for so many years. And like you said, now you're safe to actually maybe express some feelings, and it came out in anger.
And right? I had no idea it was tied to my childhood. Nobody taught me anything
about that. You didn't know it at the time. Right.
And so I just thought, ooh, that's just a bad characteristic that I have. I need to hide it.
Yeah. Did you end up getting any kind of help or therapy when you were getting a little older? Did your mom help you get some help there? Or?
I looked at it as my sentence, that after my father went to prison, we were sentenced to a year of therapy. And
okay. Yeah.
That's how I felt. So I think my sibling got some help out of it, and my mom did. And I just felt like it was a waste of time. I didn't feel like I was heard or listened to. And I did my time, and then I was out of there.
Gotcha. So how did that affect you moving forward in your life? Like even early on, like, as you graduate from high school and that kind of thing?
It didn't affect me too much other than just being frustrated that I had, anger issue every once in a while. But
Yeah.
as I became a young mom, I knew I was not going to continue the abuse.
Sure.
It was going to stop there. And I knew that from the get-go.
Early
but,
on, yeah, for sure.
I just was really concerned about, I need to figure out this anger thing. And so I went to a sort of a 12-step group.
Okay.
For incest survivors. And
oh, wow.
That really helped me see that my anger issues were because my boundaries were crossed all over the place when I was younger.
Right.
And I didn't know how to deal with my emotions. So that began a lifelong journey of understanding emotions, their purpose, how to manage them.
Yeah. So is that something you still even do today, that 12-step program, or?
No, I've gone to healing retreats and read books. I watched a lot of Oprah when I was a young mom.
Right.
And I just have studied it forever to understand myself and my emotional life. And then just recently started wanting to teach in the last couple of years what I've learned.
Right. So how many kids do you have?
I have 2.
Just the 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they're, what are their ages?
My daughter's 28 and my son is 23.
Okay. And so how did this, you said as a mom, you're like, you know what, I'm never going down that road, which I totally understand and I'm glad. Mm-hmm. How did that affect the way, though, in other areas of way you raised them and how you treated them as a mom?
I did my best to listen to them. I definitely wasn't a perfect mom.
Right.
But I really fostered communication.
Yeah.
And because I am very emotionally sensitive to people around me, I probably asked them way too many questions.
Right.
And didn't accept the I'm fine,
Yeah.
I feel like all of us parents do our best, and when we learn better, we do better. Yeah. And so I got to be a better mom as time went on.
Yeah.
Right? But I love them and they know it.
Sure.
They know it.
Yeah. Well, sometimes out of the biggest tragedies come the biggest blessings, right? Down the road. And I'm sure your kids were, would say today they're grateful for the way you raised them and the way you treated them and how you wanted to communicate with them. And I think what I'm hearing, correct me if I'm wrong, how important communicating with your loved ones is. Talk a little bit more about that.
When we're talking about our emotional welfare, it's important to be able to recognize what it is you're feeling and allow yourself to express it in a healthy way.
Yeah.
And it seems like past generations have not known how to do that. Right?
Yeah, right.
And a lot of people my age are doing a lot of healing work to change that.
Well, maybe this ties into that emotional intelligence that you're really passionate about now, right?
Right.
So talk about that, because I think some of our listeners, when you say emotional intelligence, what does that even mean?
That's a great question. So having the ability to recognize what you're feeling and be able to name it is an important part of emotional intelligence. And then knowing that you can allow the energy that you're feeling through that emotion out is important. And then being able to get the message from that emotion is vital. And it seems like our culture may encourage this, but we don't always love the emotions that don't feel good.
Yeah.
So we are very geared towards turning to comfort because we haven't learned how to let that physical feeling go.
Right.
And then move to the message. So we're feeling these emotions, we're turning away from the ones we don't like, and we often turn to things that develop into bad habits or addictions.
Yeah, right.
And I've been affected by family members, all growing up,
Mm-hmm.
that have a pornography addiction.
Yeah.
So I am very passionate about fighting any addiction, that
Right.
one in particular,
Right.
by turning around and helping people understand and identify their emotions, allowing that to move through their body. Because I didn't,
Yeah. Right.
And a lot of people don't. We hold on to our sadness or our anger until we implode or explode. And we're
Yeah.
seeing that every day. And we're losing our kids, and it's
I know.
not okay.
It's not. You said something there I want to just clarify for our listeners. Identifying the emotion, allowing it to express itself, don't suppress it.
Mm.
And then what's the message? What do you mean by that? Like, because our emotions are what? They're telling us something, right?
Right.
They're trying to say something to us.
Yes. Any emotion, be it what we think of as positive or negative, and I don't think there are negative emotions, but ones we just aren't comfortable with.
Right.
But any emotion
Yeah.
has a message. So if I'm
Yeah.
feeling joy,
Yeah.
it's usually because there is something going on that floats
Mhm.
my boat,
Yeah.
and I want more of it.
Right. Yeah.
So seek more, seek more of that. When I'm feeling angry, it's usually a border that I've allowed to be crossed, or that somebody else has crossed, or anger is a secondary emotion. So
Yeah.
there's usually a lot of sadness
Mm-hmm.
under that. And if I don't figure out what I'm missing from that sadness, then I'm not moving forward.
Right.
So if we act on the specific message an emotion has for us, it will move us forward. That's what I believe they're there for.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. And, we try, here at Wasatch Recovery, we try to do the same thing, teach emotional intelligence for those very reasons. And I just wanted to clarify that. I think you said it perfectly. It was beautifully said. So, you've got now 20 years experience teaching youths and adults and in all kinds of settings. And you've also created some games and some connection games. And let's talk about those and what gave you the idea to do these things and why and how that's going.
All right. I have been learning about emotional stuff for a long time. I geek out about it with my friends. And I was talking to a friend who was creating a mother's group to help support mothers of younger kids.
Mm-hmm.
And she asked me to come speak to them about managing their emotions. Now, I generally work with youth, so I wasn't really sure. So I did some homework, and I realized that play is the best way to teach kids anything. So I started thinking about how can I teach kids to play with their emotions?
Right, yeah.
Especially younger kids. And I have played a lot of games with my family over the years, and I just got this idea. I think it was like a divine download.
Yeah.
And kind of mocked up this really simple game. I went to that presentation and I asked the moms, how long would you play a game with your kids? And they were like, no longer than 20 minutes.
Yeah, right.
You can only take so much Candyland, right?
Yeah, right.
And so I took the game around my neighborhood, and especially to that one mom who said no longer than 20 minutes.
Yeah, right.
And we played the game for an hour. And they wouldn't have stopped, but it was the kids' bedtime. And they watched their 5 and their 7-year-old play this game. And I loved watching the admiration in the dad's eyes as he was watching the kids act out their emotions. And I realized this is a legit thing.
Yeah.
I need to pursue this.
Yeah.
So it's a super simple game in its concept. You have an action or a song or a saying, something like that you do in an emotion that you pick. And so you might have to sing the ABCs discouraged.
Okay.
Or you might have to make the sound of a cow that is hopeful. So it can get tricky.
Yeah.
It's very
I'd like
fun.
to hear that.
I know.
What does that sound
Hopeful
like?
is one of the harder ones. Let's see.
Yeah, I like
I'll
that.
do that one if you'll do another one.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Okay.
Jeez.
So a hopeful sounding cow for me might be moo.
Hey, that's a good shot.
All right.
Okay,
So
give me one.
You need to say,
Oh boy.
can you pass me the bacon? And let's see, what emotion shall we give you? How about nervous?
Okay. Can you pass me the bacon?
Pretty good. I know, right? Now
Wow.
imagine if I didn't know the emotion I'm trying to guess, I'm starting to throw out,
Yeah.
are you embarrassed or shy or scared? And you would just encourage people, say, you're right on track, or no, that's not quite that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's building their emotional vocabulary. And I don't know if you know this or not, but adults have a go-to emotional language of about 8 to 10 words. So I use I'm angry, I'm frustrated, I'm sad.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can expand our emotional vocabulary and be able to pinpoint, I'm not just angry my brother has an ice cream, I'm jealous.
Yeah.
They mean totally different things. No boundaries have been crossed. Right?
Yeah.
So if we know we're jealous just means there's something that I want. Can I get it for myself?
Oh, wow.
Right?
Yeah.
So you expand your emotional vocabulary by guessing and hearing what other people are guessing. You get the opportunity to practice reading body language and listening to tone of voice. And I kind of separated those things into different activities that you can do throughout the game. And it gives us an opportunity to really tune in. Some of us are very good at those skills and some are not.
Yeah.
So it gives us a chance to practice. But to me, it was also a revelation that there are times that other people are not picking up what I'm laying down.
Yeah.
Emotion-wise, and I shouldn't just assume people know how I feel.
Yeah.
And then vice versa.
Don't you see that I'm hurt right now?
Right.
Do you not see that? I thought you could see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it encourages better communication, but it also helps you to realize, like, I can get more curious about how other people feel and not just assume I know what they're feeling.
Oh, that's good. I love that.
And then I love that when you play the game, you're practicing the beginning steps of emotional regulation. So you're accepting an emotion without judging it.
Mm-hmm.
You're allowing yourself to feel it in your body and express it and get that energy out through the acting, through the singing, through the talking, just getting some energy out. And we need to practice that because most of us just hide those emotions that aren't very comfortable because we don't want to put people out, or we don't want to be embarrassed because we're feeling angry or things like that. So we're judging ourselves. We're worried about other people judging ourselves.
Yep.
But when you're playing a game, you're not worried about that.
Yeah.
So you get that good practice. And then the thing that I love the most is that you get a chance to be a little bit vulnerable with your emotions.
You're right.
In a safe place because you're just playing a game.
Yeah, just having fun.
And that is what brings us connection, as Brene Brown tells us, right?
Yeah, connection's powerful.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk more about connection, but I want to go back a little bit. When you're talking about these, when we assume people understand how I'm feeling, like if I'm sad, I'm thinking, everyone probably knows I'm sad, but man, that leads to like feeling when no one's connecting with that, you feel alone, that loneliness feeling, and I think that's part of the problem of assuming. Like, well, didn't you notice, Melissa, that I was sad the last couple of days, or you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And then you're like, well, no, I didn't even notice it, or I thought you were happy, or whatever. And it's like, I think it causes also a sense of loneliness. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like as we play, we realize that other people feel emotions because we can all connect to those emotions pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And then we see that other people don't show their emotions the same way we do.
Right.
So sometimes we just don't pick up those cues because it doesn't look like what it looks like for us or feel the same.
Right.
And it's so important to know, like, these emotions, we all have them.
Yeah.
They're not the end all be all.
Yeah.
Like, to take such heavy actions because we're feeling in the depths of sorrow, we can reach out to others.
Right.
Because others have felt the same things.
Yeah.
I
love that. You talked a little bit about, we'll get to connection here in a second, but you also mentioned body language, being able to read someone's body language. I hear a bunch of different, body language is 90, communication's 90% body language or whatever. What is the actual number? Do you know?
I
Like
believe it's 80 or 90%. That's what I've heard a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's quite a bit. And it's one of those things that we don't think a lot about.
Yeah.
And so if we do get that chance to practice it as we're playing the game, it really helps us to be aware, be more aware.
Yeah. Yeah. I know in my field here, body language really stands out. Like, I can spot someone who they're slunched over, almost like they're trying to hide. Obviously they're either depressed or they feel ashamed. But again, that's what we do. We go ask them, "What are you feeling?" And we're trying to get to the bottom of what's really going on.
Mm-hmm.
I might think that they're sad, but they're like, "No, I feel shameful that I'm here," or that kind of thing. So, what a cool thing that you get to do that. So why is connection so powerful in all this, and why is that important?
We all have things that we value, and connection for me, since the beginning of time, I feel like is my number one value. So I love to be connected to people. I love to be connected to myself, although I haven't been taught that, so I've had to learn that.
Right.
And I love to be connected to my higher power, and without it, that's when I've experienced my most painful moments. And it's been through family members with addictions that I've experienced a lot of disconnection, and I can't stand it. I don't know how to say how much I hate disconnection. So, so that's what my life is all about. Like, my happy place is connecting with people over yummy food, right?
Yeah.
And laughter. But that disconnection, when we don't understand how we feel, how do we know what to do about it?
Right.
If we don't understand how to connect with each other and be okay with that.
Yeah. I love that. It's probably why you love teaching so much, right?
I do.
Because the connection you have with these kids and all that's got to be really fulfilling for you.
It is. I have been in the homeschool community for a long time and taught all kinds of classes and have hundreds of kids that call me Mama Price, which makes me super happy. I love it.
Mama Price. That's awesome.
Even they're 25 and having kids, and they still call me that.
Yeah.
So I love it.
I once heard it said, "You're never more fully alive when you are connected." And you mentioned before we went live today that you help Amy a lot in the prisons and stuff, and talk about that experience and maybe lack of connection you see in some of these inmates that you're dealing with.
The first class that I helped with, I really was curious to see how I would feel, because I knew a lot of them were sexual abusers themselves. So I really wondered walking in there, like, how am I going to feel?
Oh, really? I bet that was challenging.
It was surprisingly not challenging.
Really?
I just fell in love with every single person that I've taught in the 3 classes.
And again, I just want to challenge that. Like, why do you think it was like that experience versus the opposite? Do you think? What do you think allowed you to actually, like, you know what, I can see this person as a person, and I can love that. You know what I mean? That's powerful.
Part of it, I think, is learning to love yourself, and that's a process for me.
Yeah.
And so that's helpful. And part of it is just understanding the background. Like, I learned about my father's background pretty early on, and it gave me a little perspective on, what led to his choices. And I always try to look for that. That's just who I am, is not for excuses, but just like what led to their choices. And the program that we're teaching in the prisons and with teens and everywhere is powerful, and it really leads to how do you choose who you want to be.
Yeah.
And so to see hope in people's eyes who have never been taught any better, or maybe not consistently taught better anyway.
Yeah.
Like, I know that I've done things that I'm ashamed of, not proud of, and they're growth experiences, just like the good things that we've done.
Yeah.
It's all growth.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't matter where we're at, where we're starting. Like, today is the day that we can take power in our lives. And I love watching that process happen so quickly with the program that we're teaching.
Wow, I love that. So, as I'm listening to you talk and the things you're doing now with these games and things that you've created, helping in the prisons, being a teacher, giving back, making an impact on people, do you agree with the statement, life happens for you versus to you?
I heard you ask Amy this question.
I ask most of my guests that. And it's a tricky one, I know.
It is. I think that is a choice that we make.
Yeah.
I think it's how we see things.
Yeah.
And when you guys talked about being stuck in our victim stories versus our hero stories, boy, I've lived that. There are certain victim stories that I still have a hard time letting go of, and I'm taking back my power day by day, right?
Yeah, sure.
And so I love growth.
Yeah.
To the point where I'm like, sure, I'll tell you all the garbage stuff that I've done or whatever, because I've learned from it and I'm still learning from it. And it's powerful because maybe I can help somebody just like others have helped me through the things that they've learned from. And that's just my jam.
Sure. Well, and that's why when I listen to your story, I can see how it all happened for you. I wouldn't wish that on you ever again, or anybody for that matter. But again, it did happen. But yet, look at all the good that you're doing. You said it's your jam. It's like you're passionate about it. That passion may not be there had you not gone through that horrible time.
Absolutely.
And I know that's hard to say. I get it. Some listeners might be going, Todd, how did that happen for you? Are you kidding me? It goes with the statement, the greater the darkness, the greater the light. And you're this big, bright light now. I mean, the way Amy talks about you, it's like, oh man, this woman, you got to get her on, and the great things she's doing for people, and especially for that emotional intelligence piece that you're really passionate about as well. So I don't know, it's just neat to see that kind of unfold as you're sharing the story with us.
Yeah. And I like what you said about the darkness and the light, because I feel like emotions are similar. Like, if we haven't experienced the sorrow and the sadness, the joy's not going to be there. Right. And so if we haven't experienced that anger or nervousness or whatever it is, like, how do we learn courage if we're not nervous?
That's a good point.
So there's purpose in it all, and it goes together.
Yeah, the law of opposites, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's unfortunate we have to go through some tough times to enjoy the light as much, but yeah. So here's another question I have for you, and I'm just curious what you would say. If you could go back and change any of that, would you?
No. I've had moments in my life where I've been there for a friend struggling through her marriage, and I had been through the same thing, so I was able to be a pivotal listening ear at the time.
Okay.
Or same for just certain people. Like, there have been just those moments where it's like everything I've experienced has led to this moment of me being able to just stand with them. Yeah. And boy, has that happened in my life as well. So those are probably, that's what I can take with me. Yeah. That's what I love. So
that's beautifully said. Thank you. If there's someone listening to your voice right now who's struggling, they're in a dark place, maybe they are going through some of this abuse that you had to go through and endure. You've already given some great advice, but what could you tell that one person right now who's listening to you, who's in maybe a dark place?
I would say to talk to somebody, to find somebody. that's safe. Look around for people that are safe, and because they're out there.
Yeah.
And I would encourage anybody struggling with their hard emotions to turn to the discomfort instead of away. So embrace the discomfort is something that I'm learning to do.
Yeah.
And it's powerful when you can stop chaos.
Yeah, right.
I remember last Christmas I was really, really frustrated with kind of an argument that I revisit with my spouse every so often. And I was mad.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, this close to Christmas, if I hold on to this, it's going to ruin Christmas. And I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And so I took one of my emotional tools, which I love to share. And I started scribbling. And I've scribbled before when I'm frustrated with my blood sugars or when I'm frustrated just with normal everyday things.
Yeah.
But this time I used folder paper, which was really thick, and I used 5 pens at a time, and I spent 10 minutes and ripped through page after page after page. And in 10 minutes, that energy was released to where I could be back to my regulated nervous system self.
Right, yeah.
And figure out a course of action that wasn't going all, bonkers over Christmas.
No, I love that. I do something similar. I do a cold plunge. That gets my central nervous system and everything right back in line quickly. Right. Kind of the same thing. It's like brings me back to the present and that kind of thing. But I love that advice. I think that's fantastic. If there's, if someone wants to reach out to you, Melissa, and maybe ask you a question or, purchase one of your games for their family, give it as a gift, that kind of thing, what would be the best way for them to do that?
Well, you can reach me at creativefamilyconnection@gmail.com.
Okay.
Or you can go to my website, emotioncommotiongame.com. I have my game, which is fantastic. I love it. I can't even tell you how many communities it helps. It's really cool. But
that's awesome.
But I also have connection questions that are for our kids, like elementary, junior high age, that just give you a chance to talk about emotions in like a fun way.
Okay.
So that's another thing that I've just come up with. And then I'm working on a video like parenting series to just talk about emotions, what they are, and how to use my game to help your whole family develop emotional intelligence.
Yeah. Well, I think any parent listening to this would be like, I need that, because we're not trained as parents on even how to do that.
Nope.
Like I'm thinking, man, I wish I would have had this when my kids were younger, It's like,
me too.
Right?
Yeah.
So I love that you're doing that. And I think the more we can be that type of parent where we're really trying to help connect our kids, help them understand emotions, but at the same time, I'm sure the parents are learning right along with them, right?
Yes, we are. We definitely are.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Melissa, I love what you're doing. I'm grateful to have you on the show today, and thank you for sharing and getting vulnerable with us today. It means a lot to me, and I know it's going to mean a lot to our listeners when they hear this. So thank you for being you and being a light in this world.
Thank you. I really appreciate all the work that you're doing, and I've loved listening to your podcast, so keep it up.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That means a lot. So, well, and I'll put all that information, how to get to you and your games and things like that in the show notes. So there'll be a link on all that. So yeah, thank you. And listeners, there you go. I told you, another great guest, Melissa Price. Please reach out to her, get her games, and give it as a gift. Or if you have, if you just need work on that with your own family, get those and to learn emotional intelligence, right? And please share this episode with your family and friends. Again, I love you guys. Thank you for believing me. Thank you for all that you do. It means the world to me. I love you. And Melissa, one last thank you. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, everyone. Till next time.